Leaders from the Western Hemisphere are gathering in Los Angeles today, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, for the latest edition of the Summit of the Americas. Mr. Trudeau started off the day with Barbados counterpart Mia Mottley talking about environmental priorities. A roundtable meeting with Latin American and Caribbean leaders was scheduled for later to discuss climate change, defending democratic values, and promoting gender equality. The summit has also drawn some criticism as the host country, the United States, decided not to invite Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. Well, with us now is Dr. Maxwell Cameron, an expert in comparative politics specializing in Latin America. He has been accredited to participate in the Civil Society Forum and has been following this summit. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you very much.
So to start off, for our viewers, can you briefly give us a general idea of the purpose behind the Summit of the Americas?
Well, the summits are really an opportunity for the leaders, the prime ministers, presidents, and foreign ministers of the countries of the Western Hemisphere to gather together to tackle questions that can't be addressed unilaterally by each of our nations. So they're looking at things like climate change, green energy transition, governance of digital platforms, and of course, democratic governance. And these summits have been held, there have been 9 of them since 1994, when the first was held in Miami. This is the second time it's been held on US soil here in Los Angeles.
Some very important discussions happening right now, Doctor. So what have you been seeing so far at the summit?
Well, I've been involved in the Civil Society Forum, so I haven't been watching the leaders, but I've been participating in the process or observing the process of civil society groups, which have been tackling the same issues that the leaders are looking at. They've been working for months on putting together a statement about the kinds of things that they would like the leaders to do. And it's been quite a remarkable opportunity to observe their deliberations. And then we just came out of a session with the leaders, with Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State of the United States, and Melanie Joly. The civil society leaders had the opportunity to present to the leaders the issues that they think that our leaders across the hemisphere need to be addressing.
And what sorts of issues has your organization brought up with our leaders?
Well, there's a really intense concern about the human rights situation, and in particular in countries like Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, with political prisoners, with repression, and more generally with backsliding, democratic backsliding that's happening right across the region. The growing importance of organized crime, corruption, movements of people, migratory movements that are caused often by problems of governance, but also with economic difficulties, these difficulties compounded by COVID. So there are many really pressing issues that are on the table in terms of governance. And there's a sense of urgency that our democracies have to demonstrate that we can actually get things done.
And the elephant in the room is the exclusion of Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba. Now, we've been seeing some mixed reactions among world leaders. What about your society? Have you been seeing mixed reactions as well?
A little bit, but I would say that the overwhelming sense among the civil society participants here is that Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela should not be included because they are not democracies. And in fact, it goes back to the Quebec City Summit in 2001, when the declaration that was made by the heads of state at that time indicated that countries that wanted to participate in the summits would need to be democracies in good standing. And clearly that's not the case with Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. So the mood here is that those leaders should be excluded. Now, of course, there has been a response on the part of Mexico and several other countries in the hemisphere, which is to say that everybody should be included, that all countries should be accorded respect for their sovereignty, and that it smacks of interventionism or US interference to not include them. Of course, it's the host country that does the inviting. And so I think this really comes down to a tension between whether you think state sovereignty is more important or popular sovereignty is more important.
All right, sir. So what are you hoping would be accomplished throughout this summit?
Well, they're going into the summit. The host country presented fairly strong, robust recommendations for improving democratic governance in the region, improving electoral integrity, the independence of electoral authorities, possibilities of good electoral observation, the right to vote, protecting journalists, protecting whistleblowers, and so forth. And so I would hope that those recommendations are not watered down, and that we come out of this with at least a strong hemisphere in terms of protection of democratic governments as we did going into it.
We definitely share those hopes with you, Dr. Cameron. Thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Stay with us. Up next, as peak travel season approaches, we'll be discussing how Canadians can take extra precautions against monkeypox while on vacation. We'll be speaking with Dr. Abhishek Raut to learn just how risky it is to be traveling amid monkeypox cases and whether there are any countries that travelers should avoid for the time being. And of course, we'll have more news from around the world after that, so stay with us. We'll be right back with our weekly medical segment.